How are you? My name is Elizabeth Willett, Senior Fertility Herbalist with the Natural Fertility Company. Welcome to everyone who's joining, and thank you for replaying to all replay viewers. We took a company retreat. For those of you who don't know, everyone who works for the Natural Fertility Company works remotely. We're able to work from our homes. So once a year we gather together to see each other live and do lots of fun things together and have a variety of social experiences and just get to spend time with one another, because we, for almost the entire year, only see each other virtually. So we were away on retreat for a while, and then I took a little personal family vacation to rewild, to spend some time in nature and with my family last week. But anyway, today I'm here to talk to you about the importance of potassium and sodium for fertility health. While I was on vacation, picked up a couple of free natural health related magazines and read a couple of snippets, one about potassium and one about sodium linked to fertility, and they were so interesting to me that I thought I'd talk about it and perhaps publish an article on this topic because there are some interesting facts. So sodium and potassium need to be in healthy ratios for all of health, but for fertility health as well. Potassium particularly is a really essential nutrient for our heart health, our cardiovascular system, muscle strength, enzyme activity throughout the entire body, pH balance, and healthy function of the nerves. All of these things infiltrate our reproductive system. So that's why it's important, but it's important for the entirety of our function. It's also a vital nutrient in seminal fluid or semen. So if male factor infertility is an issue for you and your wife or your partner, it might be something to consider. If you can't really find another, problem or anything really underlying or that's glaring in your face, if you have male factor infertility, consider asking about testing your potassium levels. So it's reported that about almost 1 in 5 people hospitalized in the United States alone has some level of potassium deficiency. I thought that was really interesting. You think of the reasons why people go to the doctor or the hospital, the emergency room, unexpected heart palpitations, extreme muscle cramps that we can't control, or extreme pain in some form, weakness or dizziness or fainting, extreme headaches. All of these are signs and symptoms that you could have low levels of potassium, and those are all reasons why people are hospitalized. Some people are hospitalized, right? So anyway, that was interesting to me. But the one fact in one of those natural health magazines that I read about was that there are some links and some reports of women who have ovarian cysts having low potassium levels. So if you can't determine or figure out a reason why you're repeatedly having ovarian cysts, it might be worth asking your doctor to test your potassium levels. It's totally worth it, and it's a possibility that perhaps they're low. There are women, several of them, ages 30 to 39, who were taking birth control and who experienced ovarian cysts and had low progesterone levels, all three together, or low potassium levels, that have reported this to the Food and Drug Administration, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, which is the FDA. Those can be found online if you're interested in more of that information. But anyway, recommended dietary levels of potassium, or recommended dietary intake, I like to use the word intake, is 4,700 milligrams a day. I'm going to cover how you can do that in a little bit, but it's suggested through diet. So I'll give you some foods in just a little bit, some foods that are high in potassium if you don't already know those. So then in terms of sodium is also really necessary for proper fluid levels in the body. I've heard it referred to as our interior ocean. Our eyes have fluid in them. Our skin has fluid in it. Our organs, various organs have fluid in them. Our ovaries have fluid in them. Fluid is necessary for all different functions of the body. Sodium is required for a variety of chemical processes. Again, proper enzyme function, for the ability of a protein to transport molecules across cell membranes, and for energy and hormone production. We need a certain amount of sodium for our body to function properly. And it's really best if sodium and potassium are in a good ratio or a good balance. People who overexercise or sweat profusely can have low potassium levels because the more sodium you consume and the more you sweat, the more potassium the body excretes. So there is a potential for sodium to be low even though you potassium to be low even though you consume that 4,700 milligrams a day if you overexercise, sweat a lot, or consume too much sodium, because those things all cause the body to excrete potassium. So now back to sodium. Our cells need sodium to function. Our cells need potassium to function. The fact in one of those nutrition magazines that I mentioned about sodium that was super intriguing to me, I'm going to read you the quote specifically from a doctor, is that one of salt's most intriguing properties is its importance for many facets of reproduction, from sexual desire and procreation to gestation and lactation. And this connection has been known at least since the time of ancient Greeks. So for a really long time. And this is from a PharmD, a man who wrote the book, The Salt Fix, Why the Experts Got It All Wrong and How Eating More Can Save Your Life. That's a book. So salt is, again, I'm going to cover this. So I'm going to use sodium and salt interchangeably. I practiced before I came on and I just can't always say sodium. But anyway, sodium is necessary for proper fluid levels within the body, our interior ocean, like I said. Enzyme function, the ability of protein to transport molecules across the cell membrane, and for energy and hormone production. But also fetal development when you do conceive and when you become pregnant. Sodium is necessary for formation of immune cells in a fetus, actually in the fetus's brain, for healthy birth weight and a healthy metabolism in the fetus, and development of the baby's cardiovascular, so heart and cardiovascular system, nervous system, and respiratory system. I don't know if you all knew that, but I didn't, and that was fascinating to me. The catch-all, really, is that there is too much of a good thing. People do, in general, consume way too much salt because we have a very processed diet. Not all of us. I mean, if you're on the fertility diet and you've eliminated a lot of processed foods, you may not get as much salt as you need, but by and large, the standard American diet is way too full of salt. For most of us who are healthy, 800 to 1,200 milligrams of sodium a day is plenty, is enough. But what I've read is that most healthy adults should adhere to no more than 1,500 milligrams of sodium a day. So what you eat matters. First and foremost, it's important to get potassium and sodium from your diet. There are foods naturally high in both of these nutrients. Foods rich in potassium, many of you probably know, are bananas. That's like the number one. Whenever you say potassium, people are like, oh yeah, bananas. But other foods are tomatoes, sweet potatoes, cantaloupe, peaches, oranges, seaweeds and spinach, chard, white beans, rice, leeks, wild rice specifically, coconut water, and apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar is really low on the list, but there are different reports online from pretty famous doctors that say that apple cider vinegar can increase potassium levels enough to help with ovarian cysts and help the body remedy them. I don't have scientific studies that works. I don't have clinical evidence that works. I've never worked with anyone who's used apple cider vinegar alone and had that work. But perhaps it's the potassium and the way that apple cider vinegar can help support the body's pH balance that helps. It's just my guess. But you'll see that online if you do any searching. And then in terms of foods that are rich, naturally rich and healthy sources of sodium, things like gold and red beets, they are natural sources of sodium. Carrots and celery. There's a reason why those are part of a mirepoix, which is that bundle of veggies that you add to water or stock to make stock, chicken stock, beef stock, vegetable stock for soups and stews and things like that. Some cheeses are naturally high in, obviously, sodium, and bones, animal bones particularly. Think of bone broths and stocks for soups and stews and things like that. Himalayan pink salt is a wonderful source of sodium. In fact, that's my go-to. I suggest that to most people that I work with versus an iodized or standard old white table salt. Himalayan pink salt contains 84 minerals. It actually contains potassium. Don't overdo it though. A little bit of that salt goes a very, very, very long way. So what I want you to know is that while I'm sharing that potassium and sodium are essential for fertility health and many of our body functions, it's not something to just go out and buy a supplement of, or start dumping salt all over your food, or eating more processed food. Don't do those things. Include whole, fresh foods in the foods that I've mentioned in your diet, which many of you probably do if you're eating the fertility diet already. And if you have a health concern of any sort with your heart, with your muscles, with headaches, with feeling dizzy or fainting, do go to your doctor. Don't just run out and get a potassium supplement. You can overdo it. I want you to be sure that you're being safe about adding nutrients to your diet, and anything beyond what would be in a whole food multivitamin would be something to consider talking to your doctor about. So I hope you learned something today. The facts that I found in these little old health magazines that I pick up here and there that are free are always super fascinating to me. And if you want to know more, the internet is full of information. I'm happy to do a little more research with you or for you if you want to reach out to me. But don't eliminate salt from your fertility diet, and make sure that you're getting enough potassium. Thank you for joining again. Thank you for replaying if you watch again, and the plan is to see you next week with another topic related to fertility health. Have a fabulous day. Bye, everybody.